go into a little more computerized, higher tech. But our basis is low tech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we started with, with usually children, basically who are, their cognitive level is pretty low, and to get them just to take a single message and just to get the idea that if I hit this, it speaks, or it could, like, I could relate to, I could have a picture in here, I could have an object on here, just so they can get the correlation, like
The basic functions of communication.
Yeah.
Action, reaction.
Ball, could be anything on there. A lot of times they'll use it for yes, no. I need help. Like you could take something like this because it has slots here to mount it on a wall. If a child is in the bathroom, you don't want to be watching. Give them the freedom. You have it mounted aside. I'm done. Or I need help and come in assistance.
Excellent.
Just something simple like that. It's also designed. We used to have one that basically was more like a movement switch, and you kind of lean into it, whatever. This one, it's angled. You could just kind of get in here, hit it anywhere. To be able to use it with a light touch.
Like our relay switch inside of it is activation. That's awesome.
Well, because what you can have is, besides the output from there, you can have an output jack to turn a toy on. Again, cause and effect, like a bubble machine.
So a reward structure if you wanted to go that route to teaching, for teaching. Perfect.
Right.
Get them there.
So if you get down this basis, it's more that initial training, get familiar with it,
Absolutely.
so you start to build on to everything else. The other thing we have too is I have a wall, and I also have just a piece that goes between them, so what you could do is you could actually build it up.
Oh, so you pair them.
Right. And they get screwed together, and now you have two.
That's
So
excellent.
here's yes, no. Build up more if you want. So you start to build up. Right now this is pretty big, low functioning training. This one, it's red, is because what it does, it steps through like a sequence. So if you have something, you have kids in a circle, and they all have a part to play. The first one, it'll play the first part. It'll come around to them, they hit it again. It's the next in the sequence. So they're participating in a play by hitting their communicator.
Gotcha.
Very simple. Or if they're working in a school doing a recipe, you'll say, put the eggs in, put the flour in. You hit it, they do it. Again.
So is it a singular that's programmed with multiple points, or you would create a sequence of these devices?
No, it's all in here. It's
I want to go in the swing. I want to go down the slide.
Oh, okay, so there's multiples built into the same device.
You have about a minute of recording time, as many of those messages as you can. And a minute doesn't sound like much, but typically each message is maybe a couple seconds. So there's a fair amount of time in there that you could do to build the message. Then you'd have to build up an overlay to kind of to go with that. But the same structure. From there, now it's getting a little bit more onto a real communicator because you have 4 messages. This one happens to have 2 levels of communication. So you'd have to have 2 overlays. Which one this is on, I don't know.
Yes, please. Please. No, thank you.
We also make this one with, you can put lights on here, LEDs. So if you have a person who is hard of hearing, may not realize that they've activated it, so a light would activate, so at least they know.
Right, there's
something.
a feedback for them that they can
If they're
pick
also
up on.
visually impaired, we also make it with a vibration motor inside,
Oh, that's excellent.
so they could feel they've activated it.
That's excellent.
It's basically for this, lower functioning type device. Now, if they can do this, now they're going into more communication, and this can go up to 12 levels. Right, you have 8 messages. We also, if I have them here, I have caps that cover a cell. And the reason for that is you're going to find that some kids don't have a range of motion this way, or they don't have the range of motion this way. So maybe they're progressing from this, and maybe you want to cover this up and it looks like that, and then if they improve, you can start taking.
You can add one,
Yeah.
then
but
two.
The thing is, at least this way it's covered. It's in black. There's no reason for them. They don't see it.
So this is taking in a lot of the OT issues that may be
Right.
involved at the
Or
individuals.
maybe they're only really able to work within this. So you can cover up this part. And again, as they progress, you can open up more. And it goes right in sequence. 32.
Right.
Same thing. I have caps that go
So
over
it's
there.
at that point, it's pretty much the same device.
Same-
just
every- so
the grid size is changing at that
Exactly,
point.
It's getting right into that. Like we even go up to, really, I find people who use this before they go into an actual computerized device. This is, if they can get into this now, this is 128 messages.
Right.
You have 6 levels, 120 messages. If they can go into this, they can then go into that. I had one teacher, as she did, she used just one level. If they were good at this, she knew she could then take them into a computerized device.
I do notice the this. I don't know if you can see it by on the video, but there's a grid here that's physical. So that if a student has difficulty in maintaining position, for example, touching on a screen that has no physical feedback,
Right, you
this
can
allows
leave
them
this.
to narrow it
You
in.
can come in here and just go,
Right.
to activate it. The other thing that's nice about that device is that you can use it as a visual scene, almost like a computerized device. Let's see if I have another way. Yeah. So you could actually program it to these anywhere. You can customize this.
Okay.
You can group cells together, and if you look at the cell structure, I can group this one and this one together.
Right.
So when they press on here, it'll say chair or something like that.
Right.
So
It doesn't have to be
combination,
specific.
Visual scene and structured grids. With the
Oh,
most
okay.
common things like help, finish, again, certain things that they would say all the time, you keep it on a fixed grid, and then you have your open, free-form display,
Okay.
which is, like I said, it's the next thing just before they go into a computerized device.
Right.
This one has a little bit different feature where it's 8 or 32, but it has core messages up here.
Those never change when
These
the
don't
board
change.
changes.
Right.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about it. These can be changed if you want them to, but they're fixed.
I have noticed that yes, no. When all else fails, if you can get to a yes, no question,
Right.
you can definitely bridge a gap on communication.
Almost everything is going to be those basic questions. What differs from the Tech Series, Tech Talk, to the Smart Series is what I have in here. These overlays are keyed to a specific level.
Okay.
You can just change the overlay, and it will detect what overlay is in there.
So it senses it already. You don't have to reprogram it each
Right.
time.
Now, we do have a manual
Okay.
on the back because I have teachers who can't punch a hole or cut an overlay.
As with any technology, the
Yes.
support, the staff that's using it has to be trained and able to use the device.
We give them instructions and everything, and we tell them the most important was this line and this line have to be correct. And
Right.
And it has the holes in it, so you have to. We give them a hole punch. You have to punch it in that hole.
Right.
For the sensor to work properly. I get them back all the call the whole time.
Why it's not working.
or it's intermittently, and I get it back, and the hole is punched over here, and it's just barely in that circle, or they cut that's way too short, so now the overlay dropped down, so it's out of range for the sensor.
So teacher and clinician level support is
So
required a lot. Is it something that you see as being consistently a need, or?
yeah, they need it. I mean, it's just until they really get used to it because it's something new.
Right.
I had we also have software that goes with this.
Okay.
For creating the overlays and for actually programming the memory. It actually comes with Smart Series. There's actually a memory card in here.
Okay.
So anyway, you pull that memory card out, and it comes with the hardware, and we have software for it. So you can program all your sounds right on the computer into the flash.
Excellent.
What's nice about that is you can download real sounds.
Right.
Instead of you know, if you want to imitate a horse, you know, it's easy to go on the internet and get
An actual clip.
an actual horse.
Right.
You know, the sound of it, which is nice. Which is the same thing. You want to go on the internet and you download pictures, images, and build your overlays and your sounds.
Excellent.
And you store it. You do it once.
Right, one and
It's
done,
in-
and you can
it's in
also
your library.
repeat it.
Right. We do have activities that we made that we sell. You can take those and you can modify those. So you have a basis to start. We have things with like science and math, reading, or just your basic everyday, I'm going out. You know, where one overlay is for going to school. Another overlay is for going to a restaurant or a store or go home.
Right.
Yeah, so that all changes. So that's pretty much the same when you're progressing through this. We do have some that also have for environmental controls, where these are programmable power outlets.
Okay.
And so you could, like we have a ball here playing, you know.
Right.
But that could be a blender. It could be, you know, like it says on here, it could be light one, turn a light on when you come in the room. If you're wheelchair bound and you have your communicator,
Okay.
this can do both. It can communicate and it can also turn on things in the room. If it's done by, it's plugged in there, you can do it. We also have it set up for infrared. So it has a learning control.
A remote.
For anything for your TV.
Oh, so it functions
Power
as an assistive technology well, which an AAC is, but it goes beyond just being communication.
Right. And then what we, you know, the other thing we did is besides the communication end, we also have a large array of switches that we manufacture. These are based, there's a whole bunch of stuff based on proximity. What'll happen is you can just, I should put the beep on. You don't have to physically touch it. But we have a lot of different variances to that. Like this one is a beam. You can make it just so like within 8 inches, you just pass through. I have someone who used it up like this for his chin. You just move down towards it, he activated them. So it would just be, as he came close, we'd set this up on a plate or something like that. A lot of the music, because they have very gross movements, they just
Right.
pass through. Typically, a lot of them use this one in a head array.
Oh, so someone that's maybe wheelchair bound that has, like you said, the head array, and then they can just tap it.
Right. But we have a lot of different sizes. Another cool one, right here we go, is this cylindrical. We sell it with a hand strap. So basically, if you had it like this, you can just kind of move
Okay.
it. I've had it where someone used it with a big toe, where they put it in their sock. So he was able to move his big toe and just activate something. If that's the only thing they have,
Right, and that can cycle them through, for example, the device here.
device or a computer. You know, it can be tied up to a computer. I had, with our iBlink, we had one gentleman who, young guy in his 20s, had a stroke for several years. He was in a hospital. They thought he was a vegetable because he was blind. He was basically paralyzed. It wasn't until a couple of years that someone noticed that he did have eye movement. And as soon as you noticed that, they realized that he wasn't. He was fully cognitive. He heard everything.
So you're getting into someone with
So he
cerebral
had-
palsy.
Yeah.
Where
so
they're-
he had a stroke, and he was blind, he was paralyzed, but his brain was still functioning.
Right.
And the only thing he could do was open his eye. And we have an eye blink switch. We did it reverse for him, because he would have his eye closed and just open it when he wanted to trigger something. We tied it up to a computer.
Right.
Communication software. He was able to type. He was able to talk to his wife and his son, I believe, for the first time in 3-4 years.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. You know, so we develop a lot of the switches, like this one, a piezo type switch. Basically, it'll detect any movement. Like you would feel the muscles here, and you clench your jaw, you get movement.
Right.
You may not see it, but that'll pick it up. That'll pick up the pulse in your wrist.
So if that's the
how
only
sensitive-
movement a person has,
Right. It could be that.
Right.
That movement. If that's what they have, and that's what they can control, this could pick it up. So you have a wide range, wide array of different places you could mount this if that's what they have. We sell it with stretch Velcro. It could be for a head strap. Could be for on your wrist. On your
like you
leg.
said, if it was just a clenching your jaw, and you get that the facial
Right.
thing that comes with that.
Right. If that's what they can do. We also have a squeeze switch, and what that does, it comes in different sizes. This one is the least amount of pressure to activate it. It's just air, and it goes into.
Oh, so pneumatic basically.
Yeah, it just goes in here, and as you squeeze it,
Pushes the relay.
yeah. If you need something with, you want it because they may have some other movement with it. This takes more pressure. The smaller it is, the more pressure it takes. So we have 3 different sizes that we sell it with.
So that's just customizing to the individual needs of the.
They get all 3 sizes when they buy it, so that'll be good.
Okay.
We do have our basic switches, mechanical switches.
Right.
These are all that we manufacture. The last thing, and probably the most common now, that has taken over all, is the iPad.
Right.
So we manufacture the housing. It's amplified. It's comes with the stand.
Mm-hmm.
You could also take this off. It has screws here for a wheelchair mount. We do sell a quick release plate that goes with this. You have a handle. It does also have for carrying straps on all 4 corners. That's for the mini, and then we have for the regular iPad. I'm hoping this is charged. So it's amplified. You do with communication software.
And there's good old Proloquo to go. Everyone
Yep.
I want Cookie Goldfish crackers
phenomenally
chips.
different. The
Yeah.
volume
Yeah.
compared to I've
Just an iPad.
right.
Right.
I know just I used my phone out in public as an AAC device. Use the audio text to speech. And one of the biggest problems that I had was they realized I was trying to communicate with them using sound, but they couldn't hear it because we were in a restaurant or in a store, and the volume just wasn't there. So the amplified sound is definitely a huge help.
Right. Yeah. So we didn't want to go into the real high tech, like with Dynavox and Tobii and PRC. They have their computerized devices. They can have it, because what happens is if you go in that route, you need funding. We don't have. We don't want. We used to have. We don't no longer have a funding department. So we'll stay away from that. But we will make the case for the iPad. And iPad is probably the biggest thing in this industry right now.
Well, they're manufacturing the device. You're giving it the AT.
Making the hardware.
Right.
Which is what we do. That's what we do best. But I will say that it's tremendous how much the iPad has changed how the industry is.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so we just went along with it.
All right.
It's actually taken away a lot from the sales of the more conventional type communicators.
I know in my own personal experience, what I've seen is that there is that leap to the iPad to be used, and that with your lower functioning students, individuals, not just students. Myself, I work with the high school roughly age students. There's almost a feeling that if they can't use the iPad, then they can't use any AAC device, and that's unfortunate because it is where these, right on cue, these devices could still serve a purpose to communicate on some level.
A lot of that is parent-driven. They have access to the internet. They see what's out there. This is what I want. It's not like It used to be, you know, your SLP, your OT, whatever PT, we're going to work together and recommend something for your child. It's now the parents are driving it. No, I want this. You know, I mean, it's cool for my son or daughter to be walking around with an iPad. It's the most popular thing. I don't want the stigmatism tied around with something like this. Oh, you know.
Right.
So, and that's what's driving it. And what'll happen, you'll find that they don't hold up because I've seen kids do some incredible things with those screens. They get frustrated, they do it, they toss it, they bang it, they bite it. You know, where something like this is one thing we made with our devices and on all this stuff. If you ever compare it to what else is out there, these are durable. I can take this, I can stand on this thing, I can toss it. I've had it ridden over by a UPS truck. Bent the plastic a little bit, but
Still worked.
Yeah, I had a guy who a reseller take this device without this grid on it, and he goes, "Yeah, how durable is it?" I go, "I've tossed this thing in shows. He goes, can I try it?" There was a table with a squared off corner on it. He goes, "Let me see it." He takes it and he hits it. He slams it on the corner of the table. He dented the membrane a little bit, but
Still
worked
function.
fine. He goes, "Okay."
There you go.
But that's what we used to do. We used to take it and show that, you know, show it's like a concrete floor, you know. Just
Throw it
toss
up in the air and see what happens.
Worst case, the battery's dislodged. I just put it back in. You're up and working again. I've slammed this against walls and stuff to try and, you know, they could beat this with a hammer for the most part, and
Awesome.
it still functions. That's the one thing about what we manufacture is durability. Matter of fact, we are coming up with the 5th generation now of the iPad, which looks very similar to this. And again, you've evolved, making it more durable, improving the sound, all the things that people, you know, kind of like, well, you know, I like it, but, you know, and now we're beyond the 5th generation should be coming out in about a month.
Okay.
Which would be, you know, everything people have complained about. We've kind of
You try to take into account.
tried to take into account, yeah. It doesn't help that Apple changes their design every 6 months.
Right.
And
There's
it's
no right.
It's not much, but it's enough for me to go, oh, God. All right, now it's not fitting in there anymore.
And that's the problem I've seen with a lot of the devices in general is when they're attached to these high-end technology, while they're great as far as functionality goes, they're evolving so fast that for the simplicity of the end user, it's constantly relearning the hardware. Even if the software may last a little bit longer,
Right,
the hardware learning is a whole nother thing that they have to learn each time.
Yeah, especially when computers change every year. They're outdated. They go bad. You have to look, Windows. Change your operating system.
Right.
Not only your communications software is going to always last.
Right.
You're going to have to do something else. That's if the company that made the software is keeping up with that.
Right.
You know? So,
All right.
So far with iPads, it hasn't been an issue. Thank God.
Well, thank you for your time.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
And have a wonderful day.